It's time, ladies and gentlemen. The Yankees and Red Sox kick off the latest chapter of baseball's best rivalry and Tuesday night's game one of the Wild Card series up in the Bronx. So let's get you guys ready for the biggest storylines going into this series with Greg Joyce, our Yankees beat writer for the Post, who's currently at Yankee Stadium right now. Greg, thanks for hopping on with this, man, because you're at Yankee Stadium. I would have been up at Billy's. This is the sixth postseason matchup between these two teams. So we're going to start with the pitching. Max Fried versus Garrett Crochet on the mound tonight. The pitching matchups for this one overall are pretty much even, but who would you say has the advantage in game one and, of course, the series?
Yeah, game one, you're talking about two of the best pitchers, not just the American League, but all the major leagues this year with Crochet and Fried, both lefties, just kind of doing it different ways. Crochet can overpower you, Fried can throw a bunch of different pitches at you and keep you off balance. I think, Crochet seems to have the advantage tonight. He's had the Yankees number. He shut down a lot of their top guys when they faced each other during the season this year. But I think for the series overall, I think you have to give it to the Yankees just because, tomorrow night's another fairly even one with Rodon going against Brian Bayo, who again has had the Yankees number. But right now, if it gets to a game three, the Yankees are set up to throw Cam Schlittler, who's had a great rookie season since coming up in July. Whereas the Red Sox are kind of TBD a little bit. It looked like it was going to be Lucas Giolito, but Alex Cora announced yesterday that he's seen a doctor for an elbow injury, so he's not even on their wild card roster. So it looks like it would be, kind of maybe it's a whole staff game, bullpen game, Connolly early, a rookie for them who just came up last month. So we'll see. Obviously it has to get to a game three for that advantage to matter, but if it does go the distance, you would think the Yankees have the advantage there.
When we talk about the how, the why the Yankees got hot towards the end of the summer, a lot of people attribute how the bullpen has been pretty strong down the stretch. But on the flip side, the Red Sox relievers rank second in baseball in ERA. So, in your view, what bullpen matchup or bullpen decision is going to swing game one in New York's favor, and where's the biggest risk?
Yeah, I think it's just how you get that bridge to David Bednar, who's been pretty darn good in the ninth inning. But from a lot of these guys, you've seen it in flashes. They've had good stretches where they show that the potential that they have. It's just they haven't done it consistently enough to make you feel real steady about that going into October. Obviously, Luke Weaver, we saw it from him all last year. At this time last year, he was a shutdown guy. We've seen it again from him in stretches this year. He's had some struggles, but I think his last couple outings of the regular season, he was pretty sharp. Devin Williams has put together a good stretch, but obviously you always have in the back of your mind some of the struggles that he had this year. Camilo Doval, since he came over the trade deadline, he struggled early, and then kind of down the stretch showed why they went out and got him. He's a guy who can kind of overpower you with high 90 stuff and the cutter, but it's not consistent. So it's with a lot of these guys, you've seen it. They can do it. They can do it. It's just what are you going to get from them on a given night? So it'd be interesting to see how they, if say Max Fried gives them 6 innings, how do they handle the seventh and eighth to get to Bednar in the ninth, assuming they have a lead or if they have one. So I think that's the kind of the wild card there is the bridge to Bednar, and whether those guys can kind of capitalize on the last that final stretch they had. Like you said, they pitched pretty well down the stretch, which the Yankees see as an encouraging sign. But now you got to go prove it again in October.
Love that you use the word capitalize because it goes right into my next question. We know the history of this rivalry. This is Yankees Red Sox in October. One mistake can cost either team the game or maybe even the series. So what's the one X factor tonight? And it could be anything that could tilt game one either way.
Yeah, I think it might be the base running. The Red Sox have been, they've shown in the past that they can take advantage of the Yankees with wreaking some havoc on the bases, kind of creating some chaos and kind of getting the Yankees off their, unsettled a little bit. But then again, the Yankees have a roster right now that is a lot more athletic than they've had in past postseasons, the last couple of years. So they do have the ability to kind of match that, have some athleticism, steal some bases. And with that comes, they want to be aggressive, but they have to be smart about it too. We've seen, in the last couple of weeks, Jose Caballero get picked off a couple of times, Jazz Chisholm Jr. get picked off a couple of times. So it's kind of walking that fine line of being aggressive, but not being careless on the bases and making big outs. So, it's kind of something the Yankees are going to have to kind of balance there and how they can kind of match the Red Sox athleticism on the bases without it costing them and, taking the bats out of guys' hands like Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, something like that. So, the Yankees have probably the best, base running threats that they've had on their roster the last couple of years, at least for the playoffs. But it's just being able to take advantage of that and not make mistakes there of trying to be too aggressive.
Every decision Aaron Boone has made or even not made has been under a microscope for the entire season. So if you're Booney, what bold move would you make that has the most risk that could pay off big time? Like it could be anything from lineup flip to pitching sequence tweaks or even bullpen usage, anything. Like, do you make any sort of bold move or do you just kind of ride with what's been working at this point?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting lineup tonight. I think we're gonna see Ahmed Rosario in there at the very least. He has good numbers against Garrett Crochet. He's been a pretty solid against lefties. And the question is whether he's at third or second. You would think third, but with Max Fried on the mound, they value the defense. So do you put Ryan McMahon at third, who may not give you anything offensively? Do you put Jose Caballero at third, who's a good defender there and as a right-handed bat, you would think have a little bit better success or a better chance of success against Crochet. And if you do that, then you have Rosario at second, which means Jazz on the bench, which, we already know that Ben Rice is going to be on the bench to start. So do you have Ben Rice and Jazz on the bench for game one of a playoff series? On the surface, it sounds like, a questionable move, but it makes sense if you're kind of just going with the matchups. But either way, you would think those guys are in the game by the sixth or seventh inning if the Yankees are able to kind of get Crochet out of there. But I think that's kind of the X factor a little bit is just, how do they fire the bench pieces? It's one of the better benches that they've had for the playoffs in recent years, just with their ability to kind of platoon and mix and match. But that also comes with, having to push the right button. So like you said, there's going to be a lot, on Aaron Boone's plate of when to kind of fire that pinch hitter, that pinch runner. So we'll see how it all works out. But, the lineup might look a little bit different tonight just on the surface. But when you got a guy like Crochet on the mound, they're trying to give themselves the best chance to scrap some runs together to be able to have a shot to take this opener.
To shift from talking about one Aaron to the next, Aaron Judge was named AL Player of the Month for the month of September. We all know about how great All Rise is in the regular season, but we also know how he struggled in the postseason as well. We mentioned, you even talked about it, how the Red Sox have Garrett Crochet on the mound tonight. Judge actually struck out 10 times and 13 at-bats against Crochet this season, but he also hit 2 home runs as well. So how important is it for Judge to get off to a hot start game one and for the series as well?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, we always see it, the Yankees often go as Aaron Judge goes, and a lot of times that's going pretty good. He had a heck of a finish to the regular season. He scuffled a little bit offensively when he came back from that flexor strain, but in the month of September, he was pretty locked in. And obviously they wanted to win the division, which would have given them a bye into the ALDS, but you almost wonder if it's not the worst thing that they, kind of get this wild card and just have one day off and go right into the playoffs. Because the way the Judge has been swinging the bat, you kind of just want to keep going and ride that hot hand. Like you said, the past postseasons hasn't necessarily translated what he did in the regular season over into October, but you figure with the player, of his talent that he keeps on getting these chances in October. One of these times he's going to kind of take off and keep waiting for it to happen. Obviously it would be a good time for it here, facing the Red Sox team that has given them troubles. And if they get past this series, the Blue Jays waiting again, another team that gave them, a handful this season. So they could certainly use it. He's had it in flashes in past postseasons, but you're kind of waiting on that one where he's on fire, the whole time, which is tough. You face tough pitching in the postseason, but a guy of his caliber, you feel like it's coming if he gets enough chances here. So obviously it'd be a big boost for the Yankees if they can get that kind of Judge.
All right, Greg, enjoy the game tonight, man. Thanks for hopping on with us.
You got it. Thanks, Brandon.